Malaysia's growing indie gaming scene. Smaller titles from humble studios with big dreams. Today on Main Game.
Greetings and salutations to another new episode of Main Game, the #1 video game show by Malaysians, for Malaysians, and truly Asia. I'm your host, Aoife.
And I'm your co-host, Lewis Larkham. Over these past few weeks, we've realized that we've covered a lot of AAA titles. So how about we take a step back for today and focus more on the little guys, the underdogs of the industry, if you will.
Alright, that's right. We spotlight 2 video game studios, each making different kinds of games, and both are from our own backyard.
And to top it all off, we have a humble-sized offering of indie games that won't break your wallet. And it's also a perfect collection of titles for you to kill during this past month.
Sounds great. I can't wait to get into it. So without further ado, our first segment, Lowdown. Okay, Luis, I have a question. In recent years, how common are space and sci-fi team titles?
Well, it honestly depends on which end of the spectrum you're looking at. The most popular sci-fi game series is the Warhammer 40k titles, which each have its own different genre. Just last year, we had Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, which is a computer RPG like Baldur's Gate 3, but in space. We also have a boomer shooter called Warhammer 40k Boltgun, which we showed snippets of in our FPS episode.
Okay, that sounds pretty big budget and established. How about we keep in team and talk about the indie side of things? We brought up the survival game No Man's Sky last episode, right?
Yep, and that's one example of an indie title. Other choice examples include Soma and Outer Wilds, 2 very different games with their own puzzles and narrative beats, but this kind of leads us to a prominent Malaysian indie game studio making a sci-fi title of its own.
Well, let's not waste any time. Here is a look at Kaigan Games and the company's latest project.
In space, no one can hear you scream. In video games' version of space, however, you can hear not just screams, but explosions, fired lasers, missiles, and all sorts of sound effects, with none of that space vacuum nonsense and logic coming in. Yes, video games set in space can be fun, though highly ambitious given its scope and how it's been presented. These days, with indie titles like Outer Wilds and Planet of Lana, we're going back to a time when the backdrop for high-concept space games and sci-fi titles might be making a comeback. Enter Kaigan Games and Null Space, the company's ode to the 1999 sci-fi strategy title Homeworld. Null Space is a real-time strategy game with starship fighters and massive battle cruisers, set among multiple solar systems and planets. This upcoming title is going to be Kaigan Games' 5th title. Kaigan Games has been around for quite a while, with the company's previous games being the Simulacra horror game series.
This video may come as a surprise, or not.
And BBC's Doctor Who, The Lonely Assassins.
Lawrence, at last!
These adventure titles focus around the found phone concept and tell the narrative through found footage storytelling, offering players many choices and puzzles to stimulate themselves. As a result, the company has received many acclaims for these slew of titles. So why change up their approach with a new genre? Why take up the sci-fi route with its upcoming title? We talked to the co-founders of Kaigan Games to find out more.
So Kaigan Games, since our inception in 2016, we've been doing a series of what we call found phone horror games. So Null Space is a grand-scale real-time strategy game where you control a bunch of fleets, you collect resources, and then you do large-scale battles with units from small little fighters to big destroyers. I think the main focus of the game is like it's very like homeworld inspired. There's a story campaign, and what we really want to push for the game is like very large scale battles. So think of like Total War, or like hundreds and hundreds of units, and we wanted to focus more on that scale. So that's how we started with the inspiration. We just wanted to, space RTS is a very niche game, and I think a lot of people are hungry for it. So one of my co-founders, Shah Asmi, is a big fan of Homeworld. I think Shah is also a big fan of Homeworld, and we just wanted to make a game that we wanted to play. So that's where Now Space came to be.
Previously, I was the sole programmer for Simulacra, the very first one, and then eventually we did Simulacra 2 with a few more developers, and then now we are about 20 people now. Alright, so why the jump to sci-fi, right? So after about Simulacra 3, we've made collectively about 10 phone simulator games, including the games that we have done for clients such as BBC, for Samsung and UNHCR. So at that point, the team is quite fatigued already. So I personally, I wanted to try something new. So I did a prototype for Now Space, which is a sci-fi RTS. So sci-fi and RTS are both what I'm really passionate about. So that's the reason why I did the prototype for that game. So back in the 90s, there's a lot of sci-fi, there's a lot of RTS that we've played. So I'm sure you know that StarCraft is one of them, Warcraft, Total War, and Homeworld is one of the big games that I've played back then. So Now Space is a mix of all of that aspects. We did mainly mobile games, so jumping to a 3D sci-fi RTS is a huge leap for us. So that's one of the main challenges, the technical aspects of it. Another one is for the phone games, we didn't require 3D artists, but now we do. And now we need animators as well, so sound designers. There's a lot of new talent that is needed to make this game. So finding those talent and discovering problems, solving them is all very new to us. The scale of it, in Now Space we have 3 levels of gameplay. At the topmost level, you can actually move fleets around the entire solar system, and when there's an encounter, you actually zoom in and move individual squadrons around, and you can even take control of an individual squadron and control it yourself to position and attack however you want, which is quite unique to a RTS game. We're using Unity because that's what we are familiar with for some time now. But in Unity, there's something called Dots, which is a relatively new framework, and which that is the technology that allows us to have hundreds and even thousands of ships. And it's not something that other games are doing quite well.
Now Space will be out in 2025.
Was a detailed look at an upcoming Malaysian game, one that's set in the far reaches of space. We'd like to say thanks to Kaigan Games for giving us the opportunity to showcase their upcoming title.
Space and sci-fi games are one of my favorite genres, and it just so happens that they're extremely far and few between. So I'm ecstatic that our country's in on tackling the genre of the game in a detailed manner, and with an indie-sized team to boot as well.
One space game I remember our voiceover guy Jonathan bringing up behind the scenes is the 1990 PC game Wing Commander. You pilot a spaceship, you fight off alien cat monsters called Kirati, and sometimes you become a freelancer fighting as a mercenary pilot.
The most recent one that I can think of that's kind of like Wing Commander is last year's Everspace 2. It's like Wing Commander where you pilot ships of various classes and sizes, but it has a loot system a la Diablo.
Sounds like space games might make a comeback.
Yep, and if you want to help out indie games like No Space and companies like Kaigan Games, do wishlist their games on Steam's PC platform whenever they're made available.
But we're not done with indie games as of now. We'll be right back after these commercials with one more spotlight. Welcome back, main gamers. In our next spotlight of Malaysian indie game talent, we focus on a game company who is taking a not so common path and trying something a little more different. Here is a look at company Weirdworks and its upcoming game, title/companion app.
When's the last time you've had an app help you out or dish out advice to you, comfort you in your time of need automatically instead of being some sort of number tracking program that requires your constant attention, and telling you to hydrate hours after your eyes are on the screen during your spreadsheets and data crunching assignments, while gamifying its approach so that it blurs the line between video games and a browser buddy? Going beyond owning a Tamagotchi that just beeps and requires you to give it extra care, a group of Malaysian game developers decide to bring back the virtual pet trend in a wholesome and chillax way. Weirdworks is a Malaysian game development studio known for its award-winning eccentric games and a penchant for tinkering with experimental interactive experiences. They've been around for 10 years, creating titles like Super Steam Puff, Unicorns on Unicycles, and Warpods. The company received early acclaim for its 2014 title Velocibox, which was a hit among streamers everywhere.
System is based that you have to. It is. It's not necessarily. It's not necessarily about how far you get. It's about how many of these point dude.
Super Steam Puff was on the Apple App Store's Best of 2016 list, so they've been around the block. So, what's with the focus on a 90s concept created by a corporation-owned paperclip with googly eyes? Why take the unconventional route of games making? We talked to the founders of Weirdworks about why they chose to do this particular project and how the thought process and development went.
Well, to start with, it's a virtual pet game, which is a genre that's not kind of fully explored, I think, in today's age. Like you've seen games like Tamagotchi.
It's like a desktop companion app, yeah. So there used to be like games from long ago that where you have your little the Microsoft Windows clip paper thingy, yeah. So we're trying to bring that back, but in 3D. It accompanies you on your desktop. There's also a wellness aspect to it where it can help you track to make sure that you're hydrated, not looking at a screen for too long. So that's how we think it differs to others as well.
Yeah, we thought virtual pets and companion apps were they're not explored to the fullest, we feel, and there's some potential in there to modernize it and bring it to life. We've seen like JD said, companion apps like Clippy or Bonzi Buddy, but they've never gone built to the next level, right? So it's like a small 2D character and it's rather gimmicky where you just have it on screen and nothing much happens. So we want to modernize it and bring some modern gaming elements to it, make it sort of a living, breathing game that's always being expanded with new features, more connectivity with other players, to be able to interact with other players and the world of the game itself.
Actually, we love Cartoon Network, so we usually go for really, really cute silhouettes as well. So I'm happy to have another artist with me, Farah. So she joins me in character design, concept art, so world building as well. So there's a lot to do actually. So far, we are focusing on 3 pets. We'll launch with one, which is our little Wagyu sitting right here. All the animals are kind of like hybrids, so they're not animals you can find in the wild. This is kind of like a dinosaur lizard. There is Gyoza, the raccoon cat, and Mochi, the little, they call it a jackalope, like a little rabbit with horns, antlers as well.
They've never gone built to the next level, right? So it's like a small 2D character and it's rather gimmicky where you just have it on screen and nothing much happens. So we want to modernize it and bring some modern gaming elements to it. Yeah, machine learning is something that we've used in the previous game of ours, and for Weirdlets, it's something that's possible and it's definitely something that it's worth exploring.
We were previously doing only 2D art, so now we're jumping into 3D. So we're still getting used to the like the flow and the process to it. Yeah, but there's lots to learn, and happy to learn it all. Yeah, 3D is really fun. Doing 3D, there's lots of lots of parts to it. There's rigging as well, especially when you do characters, ways to optimize your art assets as well. So they all come into play. Yeah.
Weirdlets involves like thousands of items that the player can collect, because it's a game about collecting like little trinkets and completing your home and your world. So we've built thousands of like items that have even like multiple variants of them. So you can imagine the number of items actually multiply like exponentially. Really, one of the biggest challenges, is building a game that has like so many assets.
Weirdlets will be out in 2024.
And that was a very adorable look at an upcoming Malaysian game. From the looks of it, it's more of a companion app with some video game-like elements.
There are some simulation aspects to Weirdlets where you have a little critter known as Wagyu playing in a house, interacting with your desktop when you let it out, and having it interact with the playground. Part of the gaming fun involves taking care of it while it dishes out advice and keeps you company while you're at your desktop.
Well, I don't think this genre of games are that common in this day and age, right?
Well, usually they're relegated to shovelware, acting as simulation games with scripted programming and basic commands to barely pass off as AI companions. It was quite a trend in the 90s with apps like Bonzi Buddy and the Pets series.
Okay, but what about The Sims? I mean, like, you are basically a god in that game, controlling your Sims and their daily lives and doings while building the house and arranging their furniture as you see fit.
It is, but those games don't have a virtual assistant and companion aspect. It kind of leans harder towards the simulation genre. So yes, you're right, the virtual app/game hybrid genre is rather niche and limited.
Still, kudos should go to Weirdworks for braving into the genre no one has jumped in since the 90s. And with that, let's head to more shallow waters with more indie game offerings. We'll be back after this commercial break. Welcome back. Now that we've seen what Malaysia has to offer, do we have one more game studio to focus on?
I think it's best that we save the rest for future episodes. We do have a lot more in store, and not just in Malaysia. We'll definitely touch upon future Southeast Asian companies in this season and the next.
Fair enough. So how about we check out some game recommendations on the indie front. Here are the list of indie games you can buy right now. Think of this feature as the complimentary piece to the AAA games list last episode. Fire away, Jonathan!
We've seen what Malaysia has to offer in terms of the indie gaming space, with more coming soon on Main Game. So let's take a break and check out what's on tap on the flip side of the world. First up is a new kind of survival game, one that we should have added in the last episode. In Pacific Drive, you play as a guy who drives a car, a station wagon, as you drive through a wasteland of a countryside, dodging bad weather and horrifying anomalies that are just as dangerous as the ones in the Stalker trilogy of games. Go on or off-road with your car in first-person view. Soup it up and upgrade it to make it resistant to all the elements, including radiation, and keep it prim and proper with gasoline and electricity. Every car part you have will degrade over time, so you have to search high and low for replacements. If you want a survival game with a twist, you can't go wrong with Pacific Drive. Next up is the quirky late 90s influenced 3D platformer Penny's Big Breakaway. You play Penny, who is a yo-yo expert and is on the run from the Emperor and his army of respawning penguins. So off you go as you run, jump, yo-yo ride, yo-yo swing, and yo-yo spin your way through 11 worlds and areas. Each of them have their own gimmicks and death traps, ranging from electric fields and deserts to lava pits with frying pans as platforms. With charming graphics, a lovely soundtrack from acclaimed composer T. Lopez, and fun gameplay and levels you can speedrun through if you wish, this one will make you go ready, set, yo for yo-yos. Balatro is a roguelike deck builder where you have 52 cards to play with. Draw a good hand or discard enough to get one, and then play popular card combinations on the playing field to rack up enough points to beat the score threshold to advance. Just like any roguelike game, you keep playing until you lose, and then get upgrades and buffs so that you try again in a hopefully more successful run. The challenge ramps up, with modifiers and higher score gates that require you to use many of the unconventional power-ups you can buy to help you with your current run and play unorthodox card combinations. Needless to say, Balatro is insanely more addictive than pokeracking rocks to get jewels using your giant drill in Devolver Digital's newest 2D action game, Pepper Grinder. In Pepper Grinder, you play as Pepper, who has to get back all her treasure from creeps and monsters by using a giant drill. Use your new weapon to drill through the dirt, use its velocity and dashing power to reach new heights, and also attach yourself to a grappling hook to swing while you're drilling. And activate new kinds of spinning contraptions to get through obstacles, be it a cannon that shoots Pepper up in the air, or a minigun that flats out murders everything and everyone in front of her. Part 2D platformer, part Contra, part mecha piloting sim, all drilling action. If you need a new spin on the 2D physics-based platformer, Pepper Grinder should be your indie jam. And that's it for our indie games list for the early part of 2024. There's a ton more coming later, but we'll be sure to update you on more of these bite-sized offerings in the near future.
And there you have it. That is your awesome selection of indie games you should play right now. They're easy on the wallet and they are brand new. That's Penny's Big Breakaway game. Looks so cute.
And if you're into 3D platforms and speedrunning, it can get pretty addictive too. Just here's a little bit of trivia. Penny's Big Breakaway is from a developer group named Evening Star, formed by Christian Whitehead, which is kind of ironic because he has the biggest head of jet black hair. But naming and appearances aside, he is renowned for bringing Sonic the Hedgehog back from irrelevance via his work on the Sega title known as Sonic Mania. And I think it's high time for us to spotlight that classic company. Maybe we might talk about them and their legacy and their present state in the near future.
Sounds like a bit of foreshadowing for our next episode, eh? Okay, but back on topic, I could have sworn that the indie gaming scene was most known for horror games.
It's funny that you bring that up because there is one that's coming out called Crow Country, which is an isometric horror game with low poly style graphics akin to your late 90s PlayStation games, but that won't be out until the 9th of May. But if all else fails, Lethal Company is still popular and is such a blast with friends if you want a sci-fi game with spooky paranormal aspects.
On the topic of paranormal, that ties in with this week's contest where you can stand a chance to win free tickets to watch Ghostbusters Frozen Empire from cinemas. All you have to do is to win them is to answer the following. Luis?
And here is your quiz question for this week's Indie Focus episode. Who is your favorite Ghostbuster and why? I'll repeat, who is your favorite Ghostbuster and why? You can submit your answers by heading on over to Kakuchopurei's Facebook page and comment your answers on our latest post, The Best One Wins. That's Kakuchopurei, spelled Kakuchopurei. And with that, we bid you adieu from this Humble Bundle episode. I'm your co-host, Lewis Larkham.
And I'm your host, Ifa Hazim, and thank you so much for tuning in. Do support your local indie gaming companies wherever you're watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.